In today's video, we're going to talk about why it's easier to be shredded at 40 than it is at 20. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Paul Revelia coming to you from ProPhysique.com and specifically my YouTube channel. Now, if you have been enjoying the content that I've been putting out, I'd really appreciate subscribers. I have a goal. I want to reach 10,000 subscribers, and then I'm going to do some fun stuff with the channel. So I just want to put that out there. I really would appreciate you subscribing if you enjoy the content. If not, don't subscribe. So for today's video topic, I'm going to take the top 5 reasons why I feel it's easier for myself, at least, to be shredded at the age of 40 than it was for me to be shredded at the age of 20. The reason I picked those two numbers is, in my mind, when I was 20, 40 was going to be, the end of the road. It was going to be downhill. And I think in most people's minds, 20, when you're young, your hormones are raging, you've got no responsibilities, no kids, no family, none of that stuff. You've got the freedom. It should be easier to be shredded at 20 than it is at 40. But I'm going to give you my top 5 reasons why it's easier for me to be shredded at 40 than it is for 20. And I'd love to hear your comments and questions below. We've all got a different journey going on here. This is just going to be my take on things. So let's get started with reason number 5. I'm going to count down from 5 to 1, with 1 being what I feel is the most important reason, and 5 being the least important. But they're all important. So we'll start at number 5. So here's number 5. The 5th reason for me would be my knowledge of nutrition and training, and also what's available as far as education goes. So when I was 20 years old, I was probably reading Flex magazine, and I had read the Arnold Schwarzenegger Modern Bodybuilding Encyclopedia, and so my knowledge was pretty limited to those 2 things. I'm going to date myself here, but this was pre-internet, right? We didn't have internet. You basically had the guy at the gym who looked the best to give you advice, who very rarely has an education. And then you have the magazines and books. So for myself at least, I often found myself spinning my wheels because I didn't really understand dieting. A common thing you would hear in the magazines, you would see the, 12 weeks to huge arms with Jay Cutler, brah! And it would be like, 2 times your weight in protein and leafy green salads and minimal fats, or whatever their diets would be. There would be some ridiculous proportion of high protein as compared to the other macronutrients. And that always seemed to make sense because protein was always associated with muscle building. That's even talked about in Arnold's book, that typically the bodybuilding population was one of the first ones to catch on to the high protein benefits. But just because a lot is good doesn't mean way more is better, right? So I think I often got bogged down in trying to eat, 400, 450 grams of protein in a day. When you eat that much protein, it's hard to eat anything else. You don't digest other things as well. I would say even the amount of nutrients that your body gets might be less just from the digestive issues that you have from eating that much protein. At least I know, I always felt bloated, always felt gassy. So from a nutrition aspect, the reason it's easier for me to be shredded now is because I understand the balance of macros, how to balance my daily macros, how to train for optimal results, how to keep those in check year round. And that's been a huge player in understanding how to make progress and keep your progress. Second would be training. Much like nutrition, the workout programs that were in the magazines and the books were written by and for guys who may have been on steroids, No big surprise, those were the biggest and best looking guys in that day. And so the programs that worked for them, these crazy 12-week, 6-week trainers where you're hitting body parts 3-4 times a week, or, doing 50 sets for a single body part in a session. Those may have been very valid for those guys at that time in their lives. But you got to remember, those bodybuilders had built up the ability to train at that volume frequency over years, over decades, And so what I never really understood when I was younger was the concept of volume or periodization. That's changed. So for me personally, nutrition and training, that's number 5. Number 4 on my list, number 4 would be focus. As The Rock would say, focus! So why is focus important? Well, when I was 20 years old, my list of priorities was pretty much girls, parties, baseball, school, girls, gym. Now the gym would sometimes be moved up higher when I didn't have baseball practice, when I had a break from school, or when a girl broke my heart, or whatever it would be. The gym was always in there, but it was never top of the food chain. And honestly, at that time in my life, I wouldn't have traded what I'm doing now for what I was doing then. I enjoyed my life, I had fun, and it was very valuable for me to make those connections and have that experience in life. But for that simple reason, at this point in my life, it's family, work, gym. Never changes. Those 3 never change. Family, work, gym. And family, I consider like friends my family. So family, work, friends. That's it. Everything else is a distant fourth, okay? And the way my life is set up at this point, I'm not going out partying, I'm not doing things that are gonna upset those top 3 things. The only time that I will miss a gym session is if one of those top 2 things require me to. Because as a coach, my clients, my time with them is very valuable. So I will miss a training. But I consider training part of my job. Like, I consider being in the gym a part of being a successful coach. And I consider doing those things valuable for my family. I am providing for my family. This is my job. So it's simply focus. Like, when I was 20 years old, the question on Saturday wasn't, hey, what time are we going to the gym? It was, hey, where's the party? Where are we going? What are we doing this weekend? Are we going to Tallahassee? Are we going to Gainesville? Are we going to Atlanta? I went to college in South Georgia, so there was always something to do. And don't get me wrong, I love that time in my life. I was a fucking idiot. I blew a lot of opportunities that I was given because of some gifts that I have, both. But, those are things you can't change. I'm not going to look back and go, oh, I wish I'd have been more dedicated. You know what? I wasn't. I didn't really understand it. I didn't understand the gifts that I was given, thanks to the people in my life, like my father. But guess what? I got over it, and now I'm dedicated. So focus. Pretty simple, guys. Number 3 on my list, goal setting. At 20 years old, I did not understand how to set goals. I remember wanting to bench 200 pounds, 225 pounds, but I didn't set goals on how to get there. No, I didn't set goals on how I was going to set up my nutrition for the day. I didn't set goals on how I was going to set up my training periodization. My only thing was, let's go in the gym and crush some weights and hope that it all works out. And the funny thing about training like that is you make a lot of progress early on because you've got that newcomer adaptation period where you can basically do anything and you're going to get bigger and better and stronger. But when that ends, it becomes really difficult. When you go in the gym and you're doing the same workout for weeks and months and you're not changing and you're not getting any stronger, them's the tough times. And guess what? I would quit. I would stop. I would take 3, 4, 5 weeks off and then come back to the gym and be like, oh, look, I'm making progress again. And I would get right back to where I was. So goal setting was something I never understood. Fast forward 20 years later, why is it easy for me now to set goals? Because I understand what goals I'm setting. I understand how to program for periodization. I understand that it's important to set macronutrient goals for each day if I have a specific goal. If I'm trying to get bigger and stronger, if I'm trying to get leaner, whatever the goal may be, I understand that I have to do things every day, every meal, every hour to make sure I'm progressing towards that. Part of that comes down to focusing on my specific goals, because I do have in my head that I'm going to be getting on stage again, I'm going to be doing these things in the future, so that each day I understand is important, because when you get on stage, you can't wonder about what if. So now is what if. There is no off season, as my friend Doug Miller likes to say. Respect to core nutritionals. Yes, I'm a core nutritionals athlete, proudly, for those that don't know. But Doug Miller famously says there is no off season. There's competition season and there's gain season. And if you treat the off season like it's an off time, when it comes time for competition season, you might have some regrets. I don't do that anymore, okay? So that's part of the reason I am able to set goals and move forward always. The number 2 reason why I feel it's easier to be shredded at 40 than 20 is simply this. I've been lifting weights for 23 years now. Now, granted, I started at 17 and I wasn't as consistent for the first 10, 15 years. I was probably, a few months out of the year I was a dedicated son of a bitch, and then the rest of the year I was, hey, let's go party. I was bartending, I was working late nights. There were some periods in my life where I, didn't go to the gym for a couple months. But ever since I turned 32 and I decided I'm going to compete, I have not missed more than a day or two in the gym. Been super consistent. So what has that allowed me to do? Muscle maturity. So number 2 is muscle maturity. So the muscle I've earned, I get to keep. Taking the time to build muscle naturally and drug-free means that this is mine. It doesn't go away. As much as I love, the bodybuilders that take steroids and all that stuff, nothing against them. But when they come off, it's going to change the way that their body retains muscle. My body's not going to change. This is it. This is me. I had a health checkup last year, and my hormone levels were in a fantastic position. For a 40-year-old man, they were actually very high. And I attribute that to the decline of the fucking Western civilization's men. But mostly because I keep up with myself. This is my lifestyle. This is my lifestyle. It's not something that, I do on weekends. So, I think that's a very important part of it. It's just the fact that the muscle that I've been training with for years and years is something that I keep. It's muscle maturity. It's resiliency. It's every time I diet down, I keep more muscle, It's just a part of the game. The longer you do it, the more you get to keep. So now let's talk about the number 1 reason. So I kind of alluded to the number 1 reason already. So the number 1 reason why it's easier to be shredded at 40 than it is at 20 is this. Consistency. That's it. All those other things I talked about early led to inconsistent behaviors in diet and training, right? Overeating, undereating, missing training sessions, not setting up training blocks, not doing things properly, not having focus. Well, guess what? Now, every day I have goals. We're sitting in my own gym. I own a gym. Like, my house has a 2-car garage that I've converted completely to a gym. Just purchased some more equipment for it. Just painted it black. Eventually I'm going to put AC in here so I can train in here in the summer. The point being is that I'm setting up my life so that there are less obstacles, there are less stress for me to train. So more consistency. Consistency is the number 1 most important thing in any training person's life. You can be dedicated as hell for 90 days, but if you're not dedicated for that next 90 days, you're going to be back where you started, roughly. So that's it, guys. I just would like to thank you guys who all replied to my Instagram post. Really wasn't expecting that big of a response to a simple picture of me deadlifting at 40 years old and with a poop face and looking ridiculous. But I obviously struck a chord with people, and I mentioned that I was going to do a video, so it actually got me excited to do this video because, maybe I'll make a video in 20 years about how it's easier to be shredded at 60 than it was at 40. But one thing I can assure you is that these 5 things, they're all a part of it, and You know, I may have listed them, you know, in order of importance, what I felt, but they're all important, right? So that's it. Be consistent, do your thing, guys, and if you're 20, who gives a shit? Go have some fun. Don't do crazy. I got so much respect for the people that I know in this industry that are in their early 20s that are already just so hyper focused on these goals. It's crazy to me. Like 20 years old, man, like I just was not that focused on anything specific, for better or worse. But have a great week, guys. Hope you guys had a great 4th of July. And I'm going to do another video very soon, maybe tomorrow or Thursday, on meal frequency and its impact on metabolism. Here's a hint. It doesn't impact it. Okay. Have a great day, guys.